So I want to introduce our next panel. That'd be a tough one to follow, but this is going to be really cool, right? So JESSIE DOWD's going to host a great panel here with Robert Fuller, Melissa Gonzalez, and Leanne Tischler. Did I pronounce that right? Tischler? And I'll take it away. Thank you very much, and another great panel. We'll learn some more. Enjoy.
Thank you, Todd. Hi, everybody. It's fantastic to be here today live and in person for the Saxe Retail Summit. As Todd mentioned, I'm JESSIE DOWD. I'm Editorial Director for Retail Leader. We're going to be exploring how brand leaders are embracing experience architecture by incorporating data, technology, and fun glitches like that, and art to evolve store design and impact the future of shopping. All right, so joining me, I have a fantastic panel today. We have Robert Fuller, U.S. Director of Visual Merchandising for Chanel. Melissa Gonzalez, CEO and founder of the Lionesque Group and shareholder and principal of MG2. And last but certainly not least, Leanne Tischler, Director of Window Design and Special Store Campaigns for Bloomingdale's. Thank you for all being here. So I could sit up here and read you their bios. Don't worry, I won't. I think it's way more interesting to hear someone share what they do in their own words. So to kick us off, I'd like for each of you just to give us a quick little backgrounder on how you got into the retail industry and what you do in your current role. So Robert, will you kick us off?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm Robert Fuller, like she said. I am responsible for, rather, I get blamed for anything that happens at Chanel. Specifically for the fragrance and beauty, wherever Chanel is sold in the US. So it's your Bergdorf, Neiman Marcus, Macy's, you name it, wherever Chanel is sold, including our freestanding distributions. I'm your man for fragrance and makeup and how it looks and how it's presented. So how I got started in this, bear with me for a minute, I'm going to take you back to like the mid-'80s when I was going to become a stockbroker. I don't know why you find that funny, but I was going to become a stockbroker. It's basically, my parents thought that there was no future in design, as many of you have heard before. So I pursued that career. I went to school for finance. I even had a part-time job on Wall Street. I was doing pretty well for like 2 years until I felt so unhappy that I was like, I gotta get out of here. This is so not me. So I remember my parents gave me a taste of Europe when I graduated high school, and I kept recollecting those moments, and I said, you know what, I'm quitting this, and I'm just gonna, I was fortunate enough to be able to travel to Europe a lot, and one of the cities where I traveled a lot to was Amsterdam, where I met one of my best friends, who years later moved to New York City and started her own cosmetics brand. And I did what a friend would do with a friend. I helped her resource the furniture, paint, clean, you name it, I did it. And then I stood back and I looked at this and I'm like, wait a minute, this is amazing. This is so much fun. What is this? And so I discovered the curriculum at FIT for visual merchandising and exhibit design, and that's where I went and networked with people like Ann Kong, one of my professors. Since then, I started freelancing. I worked at Bloomingdale's, I worked at Bergdorf, I worked at Gucci. I did stuff for retailers, I did stuff for the production vendors, and worked for brands. Like one of my other brands I worked with was Victoria's Secret. So all in all, I'm not going to tell you how long I've been in the industry, but I've been with Chanel for 14 years, and it's been a great journey.
Melissa, what about you?
Okay, so as mentioned, I'm the CEO and founder of the Lionesque Group. We're retail strategists, experiential designers, and project managers. And then we, right before the pandemic, were acquired by MG2, so I'm also a principal and shareholder in that, in the larger enterprise. Some similarities, I actually wanted to be a famous actress. That was my dream. But my parents called me every day, and I was living in Spain until I agreed to interview for jobs on Wall Street. So I said, okay, if I get a great offer, I'll do it. And so luckily I got some great offers. I did do it. I was in institutional equity sales and really had an affinity for retail, stocks, consumer stories, internet, etc. But I also had my heart in creative and storytelling. So I was also producing independent film, and I was a VJ on a show called Latin Beat on BET. So it was definitely like a wide spectrum. I left in 2009 to follow my heart when we had that recession, and it was an untraditional path. A family who owned real estate in Midtown Manhattan crossed paths with me at that time, said, hey, we have real estate, do you want to do something creative with us? And so my cost was time, because I had a very amicable separation from my job, and they gave me a package even though I raised my hand to quit. And so I gave myself time to experiment, and I said, well, let's do some pop-ups and see what happens. And in the beginning, they paid me just in clothes, and then I was like, okay, I'll give it 4 months of that, and then let's see if we could charge for money, and threw some numbers out there, and people were willing to pay us, and it became a business from there and continued to evolve. And I think the differentiator is I'm not a traditional background when it comes to being a designer. I see myself more as a storyteller with a business acumen and a passion for consumer behavior and trends, and we bring that into the work and the way in which we approach the environments that we create. And we specifically specialize in digital natives that are going to physical retail for the first time and really have to figure out everything from where am I showing up, what is the footprint, do I even have inventory, what's my operational strategy, and usually how do I prove to investors that brick and mortar is an important touch point and that we should get to our next round of funding.
So, Leanne, did you fall into retail by accident like the rest of us?
Yes. I didn't want to go to Wall Street, but when I went to school, I wanted to be a brain surgeon. For 2 years, I took those classes, but I'd been painting and sculpting and doing things like that since I was like 2 years old, and I was miserable not doing it. So I did a BFA degree in 4 years, and when I graduated, I was like, what am I going to do now? Okay. Fortunately, I had taken graphic design and architecture classes, so I landed at Macy's in store design and worked on renovations and got a really good training ground there because I could read blueprints and draft and all of that. So I opened my first store in Tyson's Corner and did a couple of renovations after that, and then they went Chapter 11 or something, so I went to Bloomingdale's. And then I was there for a couple years. They called me a bloomerang. I did go to Sony, and I opened about 40 stores with Sony and revamped Sony Plaza and started doing windows on Madison Avenue. And the whole thing about Sony was that they wanted to be the couture electronics store. They wanted windows like Neiman Marcus. They didn't want Best Buy. So we had a lot of fun, and I was there for about 15 years, and then went back to Bloomingdale's when they decided to close all those stores. So I initially went back to Bloomingdale's to do visual interiors, and then the window director retired after, like, he was there for 35 years, and I was like, I want that job. So I have my dream job, and you know, I can't believe they pay me to go to work some days. It's so much fun. I mean, I'm sort of on the entertainment side of the business, even though we care about the business, obviously, and we do track customers who pass by the windows, who interact with the windows. But I look at what my team and I do is really to entertain the city and have you stop in your tracks. You know, when before COVID, we would do a lot of interactive things on the glass, have you come in, and that's really where I landed. Now, I want to design windows in the metaverse, so that's really what I want to do.
So thank you for all sharing a little bit of your career histories. I think it's always fascinating to hear how everyone's journey is different yet the same. So to kick us off on our topics for our panel, let's talk a little bit about shopper behavior. Obviously, the pandemic accelerated a lot of trends, pushed a lot of crazy consumer behaviors into short-term differences. Now we're seeing long-term effects. So what have you seen in your own stores? What's the biggest change you've seen in shoppers in the last year?
I'll start that one. I think Chanel never lets me out, first of all. I'm always at my desk. So when I do get a chance to go out and I observe shoppers myself, what I see is a hunt for engagement. It's people, especially after the past 2 years, I think all of us were itching to go outside, itching to do something external, right? to some of us escape our families. But it's a hunt for entertainment, and you can actually see them looking around to see what brands have. Like they're physically looking around, and if you don't have anything that pulls them in, they go to the next. So I've seen that a lot over the past year and a half or so, yeah.
I think it's definitely a more organic fluidity between online and offline happening in the store, and it's become a natural behavior, and also just them even thinking of the point of the store differently than they had in the past, because they're clicking to buy from anywhere now, and so they're wanting something of higher value, whether it's entertainment, whether it's going to a community event, whether it's trying something on. Like, I think there's a more open-mindedness. Everything's not going to be cash and carry. That's not what they're going there for. They're going there for an experience. And I think it gives brands a lot more openness and flexibility to think different too. So I think it's exciting, but it's like second nature now, where in the past there was a lot of hesitation. Should we integrate mobile payments? Should we do this? Should we do that? Well, we don't know if the consumer will do it. Well, we have validation now that they're going to do it. I mean, really quickly, like how many of, I don't carry my wallet for money anymore. I don't even know where my house key is. You know what I mean? Like we're just different now, and we don't expect that fluidity to change because we go to a store.
Leanne, what about you?
Well, Robert and I were just talking about in our store, the luxury brands are selling out like crazy. People weren't traveling, they were buying Rolex watches and spending money on these luxury items. So that's been still strong. But now it's slowly trickling back and the tourists are coming back, so a lot of the other brands are getting some life. But the other thing is the supply chain. We get one of each size of each dress, and it's really affected like what we put in the windows, because I can't tell you how many times I've had to go in to take something out because they're selling it for fulfillment from the stores, because there's nothing in the stock rooms, whether it's home or furniture. I myself moved the day COVID shut the world down, and I ordered a dining room table. I think it took almost a year to come. So like it's just been insane, and even it's affecting our wood is 30% higher. Anything sustainable costs more money, so that's really what's changed.
With all of the rise in e-commerce, we're still seeing that boom, but what's really interesting is we are still seeing shoppers in store, and in fact, they're returning to store in droves. So what does that mean for the evolution of physical retail and sort of the role of the physical store? What do you think that is?
Again, it's all about how do you engage the client. We use that word engage all the time, but what does it really mean? One of the examples, recent examples that we've done was take, for example, the classic product number 5. Everyone knows number 5. I hear comments that, oh yeah, my grandmother used to wear number 5. But imagine what we did with, in partnership with a few of the retailers. We took the brand, we developed a limited edition packaging. Some of you are nodding because you know what this is. It was like all white laboratory-like packaging. In certain flagships, for example, at Saks Fifth Avenue here, we did a conveyor belt live in store. So it was going through the window, it went through the counter. People showed up looking for those limited edition SKUs, and when they were sold out, I could not believe, I saw it myself, they were crying. Some people came to the counter manager and said, I know the president of the company. I'm going to send him an email right now and tell him that I didn't get I came all this way. People get passionate about things that when you build a desire and you build the engagement on top of the desire, it's like there's no stopping customers what they'll do. Like it was about to be unsafe in that moment if she didn't get the number 5. And in my mind, I said, well, if you know the president of the company, you don't need the number. So I didn't go there. But it's about the engagement, and any way that you can make it unexpected and desirable to the customer to make it worth them coming out, leaving their homes, that's where it's a win. Yeah.
To me, there's no one answer. The role of the store, I mean, it depends on your footprint. The larger the footprint, the more you probably have to think holistically of like, what's the network effect of my physical assets, and how do I serve my customers differently in those different markets. I think there's definitely a bigger need for agility when we think of the store, for it to be able to flex from a point of discovery and engagement to a point of fulfillment. And consumers are expecting that flexibility. You're just being able to give them what they need in the moment. But we're also seeing a spectrum of, in certain markets, it might be pop-up because it's not a market where, you know, a traditional store environment existing 12 months a year makes sense from an economic standpoint. But to show up when it's relevant because you have a product launch, because it's seasonal, whatever it is, then that's highly relevant. Sometimes it's small format and there's a local aspect to it, you know. So I think it's really sitting back and thinking of the market, how you're best serving that market, and what's the format that's going to allow you to do it versus just having broad stroke approach to it.
I'm finding that people want to be pampered. They want to be taken care of. They're coming back to the cosmetics counters. They're coming back to the spas. We do a lot of in-house cooking lessons with our chef in the home department. People are coming back for that. People are coming back to the registry. But it's also about the entertainment aspect. And Bloomingdale's is sort of known for, you know, loud music, entertainment in the store. We just had a live band in the windows that went into the store when we had a partnership with Bridgerton and Netflix. So, and people came, and they're looking for that. So it's not just about, you have to have a good product mix, and you have to have the product, but they really want to be pampered in person.
So we're talking a lot about engagement, experiences. What are some other ways that you're using brick and mortar stores to tap into that human connection and that emotion that so many consumers are craving now after 2 years of chaos?
Me again? Okay. Some of the other ways we're using it is people talked about, I think you have a question on data, so I won't go there, but it's about trying to interact with the client. I partner a lot with the marketing team at Chanel, as well as the education training team, who are responsible for training the actual BAs, or beauty analysts, or fragrance analysts, whatever they are. They're responsible for training. They don't use scripts, but it's almost like, here's what you don't say to a client, here's what you do say to a client. So I partner with them a lot of times, because what I do is what I describe as topical. It's store design, architecture team go in and they do their permanent parts, and then I go in and I do what the fluff and the product, place this product here. But for that to mean something to me and to the client, I need to understand, is it moving the client? Yeah, we're launching Rouge L'Or Velvet, but did the client, when the client came into the doors, did she see that? Was it obvious to her? Do I need to take over all of the images at the counter for Rouge L'Or Velvet? I need to know if what I'm doing is really moving the needle in her mind or his mind, and what do I need to do differently so that that experience that they get when they walk in there is like, wow, this is great, oh my God. What sense is it coming in? And they're like, yeah, lipstick, fragrance. I want them to really be wowed and to move and not regret that I actually pulled her into the threshold, beyond the threshold of the counter.
I can say you guys do a good job, because I'm a more loyal makeup client now, because I connected with your virtual beauty advisors over COVID. I said, I'm going to treat myself for Mother's Day, and I'm going to have a one-on-one appointment. Went in the bathroom with me, open your drawers, what do you own, and try to complement what I already had, and gave me tips to look better. And now I did the beauty membership at the Atelier, and my beauty advisor texts me and he gives me tips, and I'm like, yes.
That's right,
But now you're my beauty partner. You're not just a brand that's selling me a product. And to me, that's like the opportunity, right? Yeah, I know. My husband has other thoughts about it as I continue to shop. But to me, those are the opportunities. It's like, are you solving a pain point, and how are you building human connection? And at the end of the day, even if you're a product company, we're all service companies. Well, not me, I don't have a brand. You guys are service companies in service, right, of your customers. And so it's the higher value. Okay, you sell great product, we check the box on that, but now you're my partner. You're helping me solve problems, you're helping me look better, you're helping me find the perfect fit. You don't need, if you're building a shoe store, it's not about inventory. It's like, what is the hurdle you're getting me over so I feel more confident to continue continue to shop with you? It's fit. Or is it building the emotional connection? There's brands like Cup that sell bras, and there's a different value proposition to it than just being sexy, right? They have a whole story around helping women who lost their breasts from breast cancer, right? And it's a deeper story, it's a deeper moment around community. And if you can tap into that, then you're tapping into loyalty to a different level. And that's the opportunity with the store.
So you're a virtual person. So Bloomingdale's, we have virtual stylists in home, ready to wear men's everywhere, but we also have them in store, which is a huge growing program for us. Different than personal shopping. So the stylist will connect with you, and it is about that human connection. They will take racks and racks of clothes and have them in a fitting room waiting for you when you come in, and you're not obligated to purchase a thing. But they style you, and this is a huge growing program for us. People are coming into the store because you can't really get that wardrobe. You can get the wardrobe advice online, but it's not the same. So that's a big thing.
So as we see retail sort of diverging into two channels now, thinking of efficiencies and experiences, right? So efficiencies, cashierless checkout, getting those commodity items in and out quickly. But then on the other hand, you have experiences and those connecting moments. But as store designers and retailers, how do you measure the ROI of experience?
That's so difficult, Jessie. It's it's so difficult. Again, I've tried to team with the marketing team, who we get lots of our direction from, to try to say or find out that display, that event, that pop-up we did at so-and-so, is there any way to tell what it did for sales? It's so difficult to understand if it's something that I did, which is, because it's unless you take a poll of every customer that walks in there and says, hey, what is it exactly about this that made you come here? Or what is it exactly about this that made you buy this product? That's, other than being a nuisance to the customer, it's the only way that you could probably measure if something really worked or not, or how effective something was. We have a data analysis team at Chanel as well, who we sometimes work with. Sorry if I'm echoing. Sometimes we partner with them to see if something really big, how did that do? But it's truly hard. We also have mystery shoppers, where sometimes they go in and the feedback we get from them are things like, was the overall presentation of the store welcoming? That's so subjective, because you may say yes, you may say no. It depends on the time of day you went. Like, you can't really tell, and you can't pinpoint if it's, oh, were there 3 lipsticks is because there were 3 lipsticks instead of 5. Like, there's so many specific things about visual merchandising and design that it's just, it's one of those things that if someone can figure out how to do that without being a nuisance to the customer, please come see me.
Melissa, how are you seeing ROI on design proved? I mean, we love experiences, but how do you sell it to the upper management?
Yeah, we always get that question, especially when we're working with digital natives. Every dollar matters, and in a different way. So there's definitely the sales in the 4 walls while doors are open, but we try to dig in a lot on the halo effect and tracking that. So we had a call today with a client, and they said every time they have a pop-in shop in one of their events, they see a lift in sales around that collection for a duration of time. So you do have to kind of set those parameters in place. We track everything from what's the increase we see in website traffic and a zip code radius from not only when doors are open, but the next couple quarters, to see if there's something we can track there. We track the impact that it has of existing customers to the average order value. How often do their returns of products go down? Does their frequency to shop again increase? So we're tracking those things that feel like intangibles, but they all tie back to customer lifetime value. And that's really, I think, the opportunity, is how you're continuing to increase that. And then how are we unlocking fandom? So on socials, you're probably able to track that more, especially if a call to action. But that's the other opportunity, is when these experiences can unlock fandom. Those are the most loyal customers you can get, and they're also your evangelists too. And then you're going to get that, organic marketing. So those are some of the aspects that we're looking after. We definitely want more in-store technology that's able to capture in-store intent to purchase. I think that's a hard one. And how do you continue that conversation once they've left the store and see, how you can convert that sale. I think there's some technology out there that's starting to allow for that. If you can find that hook to get them to opt in and follow up with them later. SMS is growing a lot. You're seeing a lot of brands adopt that, so I think that's an opportunity. But I think that still has a little bit of figuring out to do.
Leanne, how do you measure windows?
I'm going to be like the really low tech. Whatever we put in the windows, if it's selling out in the store, we know we've done our job, which happens a lot, whether it's a plate or it's a dress or it's a bag. The other thing is we judge it by our repeat customers, and I think it was Tal who said some things that resonated me about the 70% that you don't know where they're going after they leave you and the ones that you don't capture. We talk about that at Bloomingdale's all the time. And I mean, I get an email literally every hour, how many people are in the store, how many people in and out of the door, what the sales are, like every hour since we came back from COVID, which never got those emails before. So I think it's really interesting. But I do use the analytics and data to sell the windows when we're trying to woo a brand that might not want to be on Lexington or 3rd Avenue, and I'm like, oh, but $300,000 walk down here in half an hour in January, and that really does help sell.
That's great. So let's return now to our central topic of this session. How are you embracing experience architecture in stores? Whether it's data, art, technology, which is your chosen path?
One of the things that I love to do is take, for example, the launch of a skin brightening product. I wouldn't make a big deal about that here in New York City as much as I would at a store, let's say in, I don't know, Hawaii. Like, it depends on your market, and that's how we like to use data. That's how I like to use data anyway when I merchandise. Not all the stores should look the same, and not all the stores should promote the same product in the same way. So if I know that there's a market, for example, we just opened a boutique in the Miami Design Center. One of the things that should make that different is what if you had a sculptural piece that was done by a local artist that was an homage to a Chanel product, I don't know, number 5, Andy Warhol version of number 5, something like that. So you take the data and it helps, you should be able to use the data. Someone, I think it was on Sheena's session, they said, yeah, it's great to collect all this data, but what are you going to do with it? So if you use the data effectively, it should be able to tell you where are your people, what do they do, what do they like, what are their, what's the culture there, the local culture, and how do you tailor the experience to them? Yeah.
Melissa, what about you?
We always start with experience. So and I think especially when we're working with D2Cs, they're kind of born on that data mindset and the journey of the customer. And so we think through that as the first step before we even start to design the store and really establish all the look and feel of it. So we're taking data online a lot of the times and interweaving into the store to understand what is the customer journey, where are the pain points, where are they dropping off in the funnel? Is there an opportunity maybe to answer for that differently in the in-store experience so that we can gain confidence and get some of these customers over the hurdles? And then, so what does that look like? So for example, when we worked with a brand called Mjemi to bring them into physical, like online, it was their customization of moccasins, like that's what they sell. So we made a huge footprint for it. But that wasn't the pain point. The pain point was women didn't feel comfortable buying heels online because they didn't really understand the fit. So we changed what the in-store experience looked like to solve for that. They could text ahead. The staff pulled the shoes for them. It also gave them insights what they're interested in. So then they pulled more options for them. They sat down at the bar. They had a glass of Campari. It was now an experience that was catering to answering the main pain point. So we always try to dig into that first to see what we can illuminate and how does that inform what the store has to serve back. And then sometimes it's just really experiential. If there's an opportunity where it really is about the higher value is building community around the brand, then we create the store differently so that it's flexing for those community-driven events and hosting panels and other stuff, and it's creating a different connection to the consumer other than just sales. So it's really the upfront homework that we're doing, I think, really diving into understanding what are we answering for here, and then how do we weave that into the experience that we create.
Leanne, Bloomingdale's does a great job, you do a great job, of integrating art and technology into the windows. So can you share a little bit about how you make that work?
Sure. I mean, it started with a couple of years ago. I installed video walls in all the windows on Lexington Avenue, really not expecting them to be in for as long as they've been, but we've also, it's just another layer of excitement and entertainment, and we do work with so many artists, a lot of local artists. Our CEO really loves when we bring art into the building, and the partnerships, we can do it digitally with these video walls, but we also add props and of course mannequins and that type of thing. But with the art, we like to do art exhibits in the store and have art openings. Pre-COVID we did, and we'd get like 300 people. And the whole thought process behind that is, you know, let's work with Suzanne Barsh to do a window and bring her following uptown to Bloomingdale's, because she is the downtown crowd. And then we'll work with somebody else who's like, their clients from Brooklyn would never come to Bloomingdale's, and now they do. Like, it works. And we also do a lot of partnerships with charities like the Tutu Project and the Child Mind Institute, and we talk about that in the windows and throughout the store. So we do like to give back, and I think you'll see a lot more art coming into the store now that people are starting to shop and come back in person.
That's fantastic. So we're in the age of retail being data is king, or queen, if you prefer. So, you know, Robert, you touched on this already a little bit, but in what ways are you seeing data playing a role in elevating the in-store experience beyond what you've already shared?
Yeah, it's about, let's face it, there's a lot of competition out there, especially in the fragrance and beauty world, and we see people or brands and retailers doing amazing things. So it's not about really how do you one-up them, it's about how do you do a personalized version of something that you are known for to help excite the customers. So again, data plays a huge part if you use it correctly, and you don't go rogue on any data privacy laws. If you use it correctly, it will be really effective at having you land the right plane at the right time, at the right moment, and be successful at captivating your clients. But then the other key part of that is how do you sustain it? So it could be a one-time thing where you excited everyone for this moment, but then how do you keep that momentum going with your customers and the loyalty that you talked about earlier?
Melissa, what about you? What are you experimenting with data, and how much of it's visible and how much is on the back end of that experience?
I think there's a lot happening on the back end, especially when it comes to clienteling tools. And I mean, the role of the store associates evolves so much, and the role that they play for a brand and retailer. I mean, I think there was a big pivot during COVID. Like, they're a partner, right, to the brand and helps form its success. So the tools that empower them to understand as much about the customer that's walking in the door as possible, and having a snapshot of that customer profile, and are they a new customer? Have they shopped before? What did they buy last time? Like, because it brings in that opportunity for that level of personalization, and how that person is served in the in-store environment is really important. I think it's what people want and what they get excited about. Definitely see bringing more into the dressing room. That's been a conversation for a while, and we found through some of our own survey insights that people are actually more open to it than we thought they would be, as long as it's providing value. So bringing more opportunities where it could be a big pain point. You're in the dressing room, and in that moment of excitement or interest, but you have the wrong size, you want to try a different color, you don't want to wait around to be serviced. So being able to, you know, touch the screen in the fitting room and be able to call for it and it be brought to you, or have that endless aisle experience, understand how you're going to pair this item with other items right there in the moment. And I think it's really about, we do our job by creating these great environments. You have your marketing driving them to the store, you create a lot of fun, but what are you doing to make sure that you're capturing them in that moment of excitement and intent, and getting them to convert into being a customer, or if they're an existing customer, to that next sale.
Sorry, Jessie, something you said, it's also about being all things to everyone, because you never know who's going to walk in through your doors. What I mean by that is you may think that you have a great interactive software and you're going to put it at the front of the store and everyone's going to interact with it and it's going to be the best thing since sliced bread. Some people may come in and they don't want to have anything to do with that. Like, get that away from me. They just want the old-fashioned one-on-one with someone. So it's like when you look at, when you're considering incorporating data, keep in mind that not everyone is on the data bandwagon. Some people don't want that. They just want the old-fashioned way, if you can call it that, the old-fashioned way of buying and selling. So it's everything to everyone, I think you also need to be.
That's why I think like some of the behind-the-scenes tools are still effective
Yep.
because they're not seeing it.
Yep.
They're just reaping the benefits of the fact that your store team is more informed about how they're going to service your customer.
Yep.
Leanne, are your data strategies behind the scenes or more in front of the face?
It depends on the day. It depends on the day and the state of the economy. You know, we can talk about our Loyalist program, which is 10 years old. There's a lot of data that I sit in meetings about that. Not that I present that in the windows, but they're wondering in the past 10 years why some people stopped being a Loyalist shopper and how do we get more of those people to be a Black Card customer. And yeah, I don't deal a lot with data inside the windows, but it is a part of my job. I mean, sales are a huge part, and if sales are down, I don't get a window budget, and when sales are good, I get money. So it's terribly important, and I think now, as a company, we're really trying to see how we can get that share of wallet because the competition is so fierce.
So this brings us kind of to our next topic naturally. We're talking about data, we're talking about experience. What about technology? I mean, you don't want technology just for technology's sake, so what are some of the ways that you're using it to engage with shoppers in store?
You mentioned the Chanel, the virtual try-on, right? Yeah, we've been doing that, especially since the pandemic, because it's a safer way of someone to try on a face product, like a lip color, rather than physically testing it. That's been a success. You can do it online or you can do it sometimes in store at some of our events. We do it for sunglasses, all glasses really, sunglasses mostly, but you have to be careful with technology. And I'll tell you a little example that happened to me. I went to a counter of a brand that I won't name, Estee Lauder, and half an hour into this technology that they had, which diagnosed your skin for dryness and all sorts of things to tell you what product to get. Half an hour in, I found myself helping the associates over the counter fix the machine. So it's like, I was just curious, but imagine if I was a real serious customer, what kind of experience that would be or not, right? So you have to be careful with technology because if that fails, now what? Now what do I do? How are you going to sell me the product now? So technology is great, but we always have to keep in mind backups and alternative plans.
Yeah, when we're evaluating technology outside of making budget, I mean, from a brand side, it's like, can the budget and ROI conversation always exist, and then the IT lift, and all the priorities that you're competing with that the brand's already invested in to prioritize. So I think what's exciting through the pandemic has been a lot of companies on the technology side have worked hard to make it a lot more plug and play. It's less of a lift on the brand side, and they've been a little bit more creative in how they license the technology from a cost perspective. But what we are always asking is, yes, the purpose matters. People don't go to a store just to interact with technology. They go to a store to have a great experience. So tech for tech's sake is not doing anybody any justice. They're also not going to engage with it if it's not a natural behavior. Like if it takes too many steps to explain what needs to happen, then you lost them. And your store staff's probably not going to deal with that hurdle either. So when you think about the way in which the phone's evolved and the way in which we interact with it naturally now, we're always asking those questions. Reason, I mean, QR codes took forever, but the reason why people started to use them is because it got tied to an innate behavior. I like something and take a picture of it. Well, now that picture can identify a code that gets me to more information. But I think there's a little fatigue around that too. So the kind of conversations we're having is, okay, now how do we elevate what that QR code experience is? Nobody wants to open 20 browsers on their phone. So is there ability maybe to create a virtual shopping list as they go on the way, that it sits in their customer profile, and it's like shopping online, and now it's a great experience again. So those are the kinds of things that we're asking, but we're integrating things in the dressing room. Some of the technology that you talked about actually was just at a summit, and I won't name the brand because I can't remember, but they allowed me to virtually try on my earrings, and it was the cheesiest, jankiest, just awful experience, and I walked away. So then you're doing an injustice to the experience. So purpose, and is it really like a natural behavior for the consumers, to me, two important things.
Removing that friction from the experience, right? Sometimes we add the tech to do that, and then it actually does the opposite. So, Leanne, what about you?
Well, I spent my furlough studying and thinking how I could change the face of retail, like I'm sure many people did. But a few years, in 2019, I had live robots in our windows as entertainment, not fulfillment, not packing, sending packages places. So I am obsessed with robots and started to also research AI and AR, and we worked with holograms in the windows a couple of years ago. That I'm more into it as entertainment and what's gonna make you stop in your tracks and look at it. So that's really how I'm using technology for the future.
Very cool. So we are nearing the end of our time. We have just a couple more minutes. I'm going to ask you one last rapid fire question, and then we have time for a couple questions from our audience. So can you share a quick success you had revamping the store experience with data, art, or technology? And then I want to know a fail.
Oh.
No one wants to admit it.
I'll start on a down note and end on an up note.
I like it.
So the fail was at Bloomingdale's, and this is years ago. This was before you even came on board. It was for the launch of number 5 Au Premier, and it was the Nicole Kidman commercial, and we thought just the day before it unveiled, we thought wouldn't it be a great idea to like carve out a space in our counter and for a movie theater. So we had theater seating in the middle of the counter. We had a big wide screen. We had a popcorn machine. We had a red carpet, stanchions, everything. We had like seats for like, I don't know, 50 people. And we had a list of showing times. So you could come at 3 o'clock to watch the premiere. You could watch 4 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock. Empty. Crickets. It was just absolute crickets, and all you could do is just smell popcorn in the background. So forget the smell of the actual fragrance. It was camouflaged or disguised by the popcorn, and there was just one person sitting in the theater seat, and it was a guy waiting for his wife to finish her makeover. So I'm like, wow, this is not good. The learnings from that I'll table for another summit, but a success, I think, and it still gets me teary-eyed whenever excuse me. It still gets me teary-eyed because it's, again, with number 5, this is the power of a brand to move people. We did a trolley in San Francisco. We did a trolley in San Francisco, and by that I mean we completely refurbished the trolley. We did it in white and black, Chanel logos all over it. Inside was an homage to Chanel, Mademoiselle Chanel. And the people that lined up to go in, the comments that we would hear on the other side, I'm sorry.
It's all right, take your time.
This wasn't rehearsed. No, the reason it makes me emotional is because there are people who, they're not the number 5 customer, but when they came in and came out, they talked about the losses in their lives that it reminded, the journey through the trolley and where we took them made them feel a connection with the brand that they didn't know before. We told them about who Chanel was. She was a real person. and that she also had, she was a human being. She had boyfriends. She had an entertainment side of her, which is where Coco came from. And also, we took them through a discovery path through where the flowers come from to make the fragrances. And in particular, there was this one woman who came, and she had just lost a few people in her life recently. And she said, wow, this really distracted me. I was feeling really depressed. And I saw this. I'm like, what is this? Chanel? What is Chanel doing? And she went through the trolley, and she said, oh my God, I really needed this. But it's several of those. The trolley was around for like 2 days. And I heard several of them. And when you watch the video that recaps that moment, it's like, wow, I can't believe a brand could do this still. And that was a success.
That's really powerful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Melissa, success and failure.
Okay, the failure, I'm not going to name, but it was a fast fashion retailer out of Europe, and they wanted to do a shoppable showroom experience in New York City. We brought in a mirror who could detect the tags of the clothes that you were wearing. You can create a virtual lookbook, you could post that on socials, you can get people to vote what you should wear. Also, that catalog could get mailed to you, all with affiliate links so you could shop the product later. It was a great experience in that aspect. The fail was the merchandising and the marketing team were not aligned. And so customers were coming in, they were trying on products, they were falling in love with them, and then they couldn't have them. It was disappointing, and people were angry. So that was not a good brand experience, and that's why it's so important that silos don't exist. Right? Digital teams, in-store teams, marketing teams, merchandising teams all have to have conversations to make sure that everybody's aligned. So it's a good customer experience. On the successful side, I could go. So I feel like in hearing yours, we helped a brand called Lisa open their first store, and mattress is a crowded space. And so how do we pull forward that this was a brand of greater purpose, in addition to making sure you have a great night of sleep? And so for every mattress they sold, every 10 they sold, they donate one to the Bowery, and they provide beds for homeless people. And so to further tie the story, all the art that was in the store was in partnership with Art Lifting, and it was for homeless, formerly homeless, or disabled artists. And we had them come to the store, and they made a portion of all those sales. Any art that sold in the store went right back to that artist. And it was an opportunity to tell a story that people want to associate themselves with brands that stand for something greater than just selling a product. And so that was the way we were able to authentically tie that into the in-store experience.
Okay, a fail would be, I won't name the brand, but the windows were during Father's Day and all about selling the clothes right from the glass. So there was a touch screen on the glass, and you would order it, and the whole idea was that a salesperson would come out with it to the shopping bag on the sidewalk, so you didn't even have to come in the store. Not one thing sold. Not one thing. And this was years ago. But one of my favorite successes that we did was for Pride back in, I want to say 2017-ish. We did it a couple years in a row where we had dance wars in the window, and we had drag queens and just everyone on the sidewalk watching the dance wars. And the second year we did this, the city came to shut us down because we were stopping traffic on Lexington Avenue, and I didn't have a permit. So whoever, I forget her name, who was hosting, and she said, all right, everybody into Bloomingdale. So they all came into the luxury handbag arcade, right past Chanel, up onto the main floor that we call the B-Way, and finished the dance off. And we had literally like 500 people in cosmetics on that floor. And the beautiful thing about it is that sales went up that afternoon. So it was great.
That's amazing. Thank you for all of those examples. We don't have time for questions. I'm sorry. We've got the hook. We're pulling off stage. But I want to thank my fantastic panel, Robert, Melissa, and Leanne.